We are back here in Atlanta at the Military Influencers Conference with, state your name.
Todd Simmons. Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to come on you guys' podcast. Looking forward to it releasing. Todd Simmons, I live in Washington, D.C. area. I'm the founder of Courageous Leadership Alliance, which is a workforce development GovCon company that I founded in 2019. Served 25 years, 7 months, 11 days, and 90 minutes in the United States Air Force. So, I'm excited to be here and make my first time down here. So excited, and thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Well, I will say as an Air Force vet,
All right.
and as someone who continues to serve in the Air Force Reserve, who also lives in the DC area.
Yeah.
Eries was telling me about your story, and it's phenomenal. Red tape, real talk, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And you talked about GovCon.
GovCon.
Your background.
Oh man.
So I know
2025 GovCon.
You're cutting through red tape every day, right?
Every day.
So tell us a little bit about it. Keep it real with us, right?
Entrepreneurship. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Like grandfather, first black man to be, was essentially a logger in South Carolina in the 50s and 60s, where he had multi-race workers, and that was very controversial. So it's something that's always been in my blood. So when I retired from the Air Force in 2019, I said, I'm going to do what the family's done. My mom owned beauty salons, daycare centers, and all kinds of stuff. Everyone in my family's like, we work for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So I opened up CLA Inc., our first company in DC. Off to the races, 2020, COVID happens. So had to cut through that red tape, but I would tell you 2025 in the GovCon space has been a challenge. Reorganization of, government agencies, and just priorities were changing, and priorities change faster than some of us could. I've had friends who have lost their entire businesses. Understanding that you have to stay up on everything that's being put out at the speed of relevance. So if something is changing, you can complain or learn. So, I don't have to agree with the rules, but I have to know the rules.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how we cut through the red tape. It's like so much chaos was happening. And I have a phrase that in chaos, you can find success.
Yeah.
How we cut through the bureaucracy is, one thing is an age-old thing that I learned in the military is, leadership by walking around. It's not COVID anymore. So I remember, March, April, and everything was gone. And, Doge came in as an agency in our GovCon space, and what was normalcy for decades wasn't normal anymore. And people was trying to figure it out. I think me being a new person into the GovCon space for only a couple of years, I'm not going to try to figure this out on the internet and figure it out. I'm going to go directly to the contracting officers.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up the phone and call them and start telling them, hey, this is what I'm challenged with. And they're going to be honest. And I built relationships with some of these people. They're like, hey, some of them picked up the phone and said, we don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, well, thank you for being honest with me.
Yeah.
But those were some of the first people who called me when they did know.
Yep.
So cutting through the red tape for me was, hey, going directly to the source. We can look at bureaucracy, we can look at barriers, and that's always going to be in government. That's always going to be a challenge. I remember seeing things, happen when she was in charge at Maxwell, and I was already out. This was my last assignment.
But you built an incredible foundation for me to come in
There you go.
and get some stuff done.
So I tell people you have to, I was security forces in the Air Force, the military police, for those of you out there. I will tell you that, we do this thing called active shooter drills in the military, where we're training people if an unfortunate thing about active shooter happens. In security forces, you have to run toward the sound of the gunfire to till the gunfire stops, to stop the danger.
Yeah.
That's how I view bureaucracy. You have to run toward the danger, which is bureaucracy, until it stops. And if you stop, then the bureaucracy is going to keep shooting.
Yes.
So that's kind of my philosophy with anything in government. People are like, how do you work in government? It's so convoluted. It's so crazy. I'm like, but I like the chaos.
Yeah.
Because I've learned to run toward the gunfire. I've learned to challenge, and I've learned to stop it with my, intellect of understanding the rules or just building relationships or whatever it is. I'm going to get to the gunfire.
Yeah.
Right toward the gunfire.
Run to the gunfire. And our government's not perfect, but it is
Not
worth
perfect.
perfecting. And we don't have people kind of coming in and challenging the way things have always been.
Yeah.
And through the chaos, right? When there's a lot of just, inefficiencies, the structures aren't there. The response for today's Americans is not there. We're leaning on the way we've always done things, then democracy's not going to win, right? We can't remain stagnant. And I think that's how GovCon kind of really fills that space is, we have our public services, but then we need to branch out beyond just the public servants to be able to bring in new talent, bring in new ideas to fill some gaps in a public service. So tell us, what is one public service that you could not live without?
This is going to sound a little cliche. It's probably all of them. But so this is going to go back to the service part of it. I would say to me today, because I travel a lot and things, it's law enforcement.
Yeah, that's a great one.
So, and why I say that, not because I have a background in law enforcement and that my brother's actually in law enforcement. It's not,
family business.
That sounds like a family business.
It's not because of that. It was because of what we're talking about, right? And so I live in Rockville, Maryland.
Oh yeah.
And the mayor of Rockville is a phenomenal mayor. And she challenged me one day. So, I have this thing about taking the uniform off. Even though I'm in a for-profit business, I sit on charity boards and all these things. It's all about civic duty.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, I have no bandwidth to do anything, but I have to do something.
Yes.
And, and I live in Rockville is a relatively safe community and stuff, but I live in safety, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So how can I get involved? How can I be a part of where I live? So one day I was talking to the mayor, and it was actually at a GovCon event, and she was talking about opportunities in the city and things. And I just talked to her and learned a little. She's like, we have a vacancy on the police board. And I'm like, okay. And they followed up. So she appointed me to the city of Rockville, Police Community Commission Committee, right? And that's been one of the most rewarding things I've done over the last year, because I thought it was going to be something different than it was. But to have, Chief Westall, to have interface with the chief every day and someone to listen about so every part of Rockville is not equal. So for me to have a community voice to say, I see cops in my neighborhood all the time, because my neighborhood is safer, you're policing, and not all the time for responding to anything.
Yeah.
But other people and citizens,
presence.
other citizens are saying they don't see the presence.
Yeah.
Why is that? So for me to be able to cut through that red tape and go directly every month to be able to have an audience with the chief of police, that became the service that I say I can't live without, because I'm impacting even people's lives beyond mine.
Yeah.
I'm impacting my life. I'm impacting the people on the other side of my city. I'm impacting the residents' life. So right now, that's like a focus of mine. And I would if I can do a two-parter to that,
you can.
This might be an announcement. This might be a post.
We like announcements.
I'm just saying.
Let me say real quick that you cannot rise to your highest potential without a foundation of safety and security.
Absolutely.
So to know that you are looking out for the people of Rockville and saying, don't just look at my neighborhood, but I want everybody's neighborhood.
Everyone's
so they
neighborhood.
can feel safe, so they can go out there and fully share their talents and really help this democracy.
Absolutely. It's not about me. It's the community. I retired from the Air Force as part of the education system.
Yeah.
I was the command chief of Air U.
Shout out to Eries University.
I am seriously considering, when I'm done with the police commission board, or maybe even resign from that, if that's the case, to run for school board.
There we go.
I love it.
I feel that, I remember in the 8th grade that it was my 8th grade graduation, and we had to come up with this theme, and we was like, education is the gateway to the future. That was I'll never forget, and I did not have a strong education foundation. I didn't realize that until later, how much of a gateway from the communities that I came from, that education can be such a parachute for you. I mean, you can say, it can be such a game changer, a force multiplier. And, being in Montgomery, where we both serve, and at the time when I was there,
challenging school system, right?
Yeah. And then, all the work that was done at senior leader level, and you continued that work. That was such an eye opener for me, I grew up in a similar community with challenging education system. And I remember, my kids grew up overseas. We were overseas for 17 straight years.
Oh, 17 years.
17 straight years. So my kids had great schools, great opportunities. They both did very well in college. But I remember when my youngest daughter came to Montgomery with us, and I didn't understand the school system because I've been gone for so long. And I just felt bad being a command chief and having to make a choice that I'm going to pay for private school versus sending my daughter. It was a very tough choice for me. I'm the senior enlisted leader of this base. At the time, my exec, it just happened to play out this way. My exec, she came in the Air Force, she was 27 years old. So we were the same age. So she was an E6 tech sergeant, and I am command chief, but we were a year young, and our kids were the same age. And her kids had to go to the public school because she couldn't afford, she didn't have to find it. And it didn't just it it really grated against
No.
me. And that's why when the leaders got involved in trying to do something in education, I was such an all-in participant because it affects the outcome of people's lives. So that's why I say, if I think it's a public service that I really am passionate about, is the education piece that we cannot live without today in our society, of being so behind in so much STEM, so behind with China and engineering, and so behind. And I'll end with this. I was the command chief at Edwards, and I'll stop. The local Morocco school district had to bring in foreigners to be math teachers because they could not hire teachers to come be. Not that, and those teachers were phenomenal that they hired and put on a visa, but I was like, we cannot find people in this country to go teach our kids. It was very eye-opening to me.
You know, I think you touched on, I know, a couple of great points, right? That I know I wanted to talk about, right? Which is, we put this podcast together.
Yeah.
We wanted to focus on bringing public service to the American public.
Yes.
Exposing them to all the things that surround public service.
Yeah.
Whether it's a constituency group that's helping to fill gaps where public services aren't available to folks, or if it's a public servant, like a possible future school board leader. This is one of the things that I tell folks, because during my time at the White House and during my time at VA, one of the things I learned when talking to what I consider real people who want to run for and pursue public office is the meat and potatoes of the work that gets done in this country are at your school boards, they're at city council,
local,
they're at boards and commissions. And so thank you for sharing that, because this is where you get to dig in and have a high impact.
Local government's where it's at.
It is.
And, someone, a great mentor once said, hey, you should run for Congress one day. I'm like, nothing against our system of government. Right. I said, just being a appointee of the mayor on the police commission and seeing what we can do and the attention that the police force gives us when we have recommendations on police in our community. I'm like, why didn't I do this 15, 20 years ago? Or why didn't I talk? So now, I'm on a campaign, like you say, public service. I'm part of a fairly large group of men in a golf group. Okay. And even though we're here to golf, I'm trying to bring that essence of we have to do more. And I'm very proud that golf group just did a charity in San Antonio last week and donated $8,500 to a charity. But we are recipients of other people's goodwill.
Yes.
Right. Right.
That came behind my grandfather. We cannot stand still. It's not an option.
And I think it's really important. We talked a lot about, school board, running for Congress, things like this. And, there's a lot of veterans showing up right now, right? As the noise is loud out there and tensions are high, it's veterans out there trying to bring down the temperatures. You don't even realize, the person that's now the new member of the Rockville school board, skipping it into existence, is a veteran who's had experiences all over the world and is willing to share those with his community. And so I think that is just phenomenal. So as we look to the young people that are out there today, you served on active duty, you came out and you started serving, in a contracting space, and you're looking to serve on the school board, and you're serving with the police board in Rockville. What would you say to young people to educate, to inspire them, to encourage them to seek a path of public service? What would be your message to them?
I don't believe in being a hypocrite in my messages. I have a 24-year-old, a 29-year-old, and I say my 24-year-old is my bail money child because she's the one you're going to see protesting, and I got to have my bail money account. I said that at my retirement. I'm like, this is my bail kid. Genius, super smart. She believes in this country, the country's promise. She believes that everyone deserves a fair shake and a fair seat at the table. And she's 24. And the same thing I've told my kids at the kitchen table for years. Do you have a problem? Be the change. Yes. There's no one coming to save you. What I would tell young people today, your grandmother and your grandfathers and your great-grandparents have done the work. It's time for them to rest.
Yes.
Your grandparents, let them rest. Your parents, let them rest. It's your turn. Just like it was my generation's turn, it's your turn. So that's what I tell young people. So I will engage in a listening effort with anyone. I love listening to young people. I'll listen, but at the end, tell me, how can I help you? Because I'm the coach, you're the player.
Yeah.
Because it's almost time for me to rest.
Yes.
So I'm like, how do we now get you prepared to get in the game? Yes, there are challenges, and there's going to be challenges tomorrow, and these challenges are getting greater, and they're getting more complex. Yes. They're getting more complicated. If you got to jump in the game now, Because if you jump in the game later, it might not be anything left to fix.
You're gonna be on the menu, you know.
Yeah. So either you want to be, you want to be in the game now when the score is 10-3.
There you go.
Yes.
You don't want to be in the game when the score is 44-0.
Yep.
That's a harder comeback. And right now, I think the score is not high. The score is high, but the score is not high enough, and we can't come back.
Absolutely.
So I would tell young people now, you got to jump in. And I living in the DC area, what I get encouraged by more than anything, I tell people like, oh, how do you live up there? I said, what I get encouraged by is that I get to see democracy every day.
In action.
When I've literally like lived in California or lived in Montgomery, Alabama, but I can see the protests because I'm always like held in traffic. So I can see the young people protest. I can see the different demographics because it's not always on the news. It's not always reported. But people are exercising their right to protect this democracy every day. That encourages me when I see that, because I'm like, it's not like the people.
We the people are out there fighting for our rights, fighting for our democracy.
Yeah, the people.
And you see that every day.
And you see it, and then I think that encourages me not to become, the person who thinks it's doom and gloom. That keeps me on the positive side, because as long as we got people just voices, I remember your voice from day one, and we got younger voices. We have people who are willing to come together. Like this is like Mick. This is an example. Like you got 2,000 plus people here who are in a veteran community, and some of the things I'm walking by seeing people involved in is truly mind-blowing. Be honest with you, a lot of these people can be retired and sitting on the beach.
Yes.
Or getting a job and enjoying their pensions and gone. So yeah.
You could be,
I didn't want to say that.
Not yet. It's got some more serving in it. Not me.
Oh, I know. I'm like, some days that condo on the beach don't look like a bad idea. But I think purpose-driven life is instilled in us, and I don't think we'll do anything different.
And you're in this space because, like us, you believe that America's worth fighting for. Yeah. And if we can pour our talents and our heart and our hustle, right, into our democracy, we can save it.
Absolutely.
And it is an experiment, and it's a fragile experiment. And unless people get involved, through the protests, like your daughter, and may she not get arrested.
I know, right?
She's not yet. Sometimes I have to call her about her Instagram account. Yeah, sometimes I have to be like, you have an employer. And they have the right to not have you employed there.
Yes.
So your thoughts and things have to be contextual. You have to, put this into perspective. So, but I love her. I mean, I love the fact that, I remember the protest in DC. I think it was, right after George Floyd, a lot of the protests in DC.
Yeah.
And my daughter was, I think she was 20, 21 at the time. And she came to me and she was like, hey, I want to go downtown and I want to march.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about why we're going.
Yes.
Let's talk about the message. Let's talk about what you want to get out of this and what you're going to achieve. And we went, and some people be like, you took your daughter? Like, yeah, I did. We went. And she exercised her right, and she stood, and man, it was such she asked me to give her a moment. Like it was overwhelming for her, and she like sat by herself. And I really appreciated that moment. I tell people like, you get some powerful moments in life, but I will go down away from earth thinking that was one of the most powerful moments in my life. Because my daughter at one point didn't think she saw me in uniform. She saw me as a barrier, not an ally.
Oh, wow. And was that moment that shifted that?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
She saw me as someone who fought for a system, but did not have its own voice.
There it is.
That's what she thought. And honestly, she was probably corrected sometimes in assuming that.
Yeah.
But she didn't understand at the time, it wasn't that I didn't have my own voice. I had a complicated responsibility.
Yes.
But what I did not do is communicate to her what my voice was. She just assumed through her being out. So that's why it's so important to have venues like this for people to have voices.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yes.
And I think you touch on a really important point about perceptions, right?
Yeah.
We see things in a certain way, and we believe that's all there is, right? And that's a little bit of why we want to do this Red Tape Real Talk podcast, is that there's a lot of assumptions being made about the people that serve in public service.
Oh, absolutely.
And trust is so low, like it's declining for our public, particularly our civilians in public service.
Yeah.
And so we want to really, tackle those perceptions and connect people with not just the public services that are happening for them every day, like the police, like their schools, but also connect them with the people that are providing those public services.
Yeah.
And I know that you and Khalith Wright are doing an amazing thing right now. If you can tell our audience a little bit about what you just launched and how that's connecting, how that is really challenging and making our public curious to learn more and figure out what they can do.
So Khalith Wright, who's the 18th Chief Master in the Air Force, we have 2 Knights in a Mic. It's sponsored by Columbia Southern University, which is a Knights, that's their mascot. So that's the podcast that we had. And just like, Red Tape, we want to, if you're following any Air Force news, you know Khalith Wright, the 18th Chief Master in the Air Force, people have a perception of him as being this guy in uniform. So we wanted to have something where we could have honest, real conversations.
Real talk.
Right.
Real talk.
Real
Like,
talk.
I think people expected us to come on and talk about our Air Force careers and what we think Air Force policy should be. And I've been really encouraged by the feedback we received from that podcast. Like so many people, because I thought it was like not good, to be honest with you. Because we just got on there like,
Let's just talk.
Here we are. Having a conversation. And sometimes you get to be in the space where we can feel comfortable and be like, they're talking about some real stuff here in a very casual, unfiltered way. And we need that sometimes because there's a lot of spin out there.
And it was some vulnerable moments. And I've known Khalid for a long time. And there's some vulnerable moments that even he caught me off guard. It was like, when he talked about, being in service and the toll that took on his family and him going there and sharing that was not scripted. That was just random as we can make up and everything we were talking about. So, that's kind of what we're doing now. I'm actually launching another podcast at the end of November called the Sit Rep.
Okay.
So the Sit Rep, Situation Report for the Military, is called the Sit Rep, and it's going to be veteran entrepreneurs.
Excellent.
So we're going to highlight a lot of people. People don't realize Ice-T was in the Army.
Yeah.
So we've been in talks with, a couple of big names, but also it's not about having big. We want to do what you guys are doing on Red Tape. I want to show people what the veterans really look like.
Yeah.
So many people we don't know that own large companies to small companies that are veterans. We just don't know. So I want to highlight a lot of those folks. So we're going to launch that and really talk about veteran entrepreneurship.
Shout out to Sit Rep.
Yeah, shout out to Sit Rep. But I have to say really quickly, and this was back in our, at Maxwell. My boss used to say, well, why are you in blues all the time? Right. And it was because people would literally walk past me and not acknowledge me, not extend customs and courtesy. Oh, I didn't know you were the base commander. I was like, well, okay, and then even in retirement now, people, immediately, if we're at a veteran event, whatever, they extend to my husband, oh, sir, thank you for your service.
Oh,
so
wow.
I think with the Sit Rep and kind of showing who are the veterans, like for people to go, okay, Ice-T the rapper, he was a veteran. Yeah, you would not think that, but then they don't think somebody like me could have possibly been the veteran. And the last thing I'll say is the one day I'm driving into Maxwell Air Force Base, right? I'm in the blue top, or the white top blue car, right? Base commander's car. And dude pulls up next to me in big old truck and he's doing this. And I have 3 airmen in the car with me because when I would go to events downtown, I would be like, I got, 4 seatbelts I can take, plus 3, right? And young people don't get to go to this kind of stuff. So let me take them. And he's doing this, and my airman's like, I think he wants you to roll down the window. So I roll down the window and he goes, isn't only the base commander allowed to drive this car? And I said, yep, that's me, the base commander.
That'll be me.
Yeah. Also, can you pull over to the parking lot?
Yes.
We can have a conversation.
But to help people see, right? An entrepreneur can be anyone, right?
Anyone.
A veteran can be anyone, right? You out there, to our young people that are watching, you can be anyone and anything. And so, I love what you're doing. I love the current podcast. I've been following it. I'm excited about this new podcast and just all the ways you show up, and really just try and change the conversation, get people curious, right? And get people moving forward and knowing, we just saw you do it today at Nick. We won't reveal that today, but another thing you're working on, but encouraging somebody like, no, you got this. Go do it, right? Yeah. That's what you do every day.
I think that's what we can say we find the most, that's what service looks like.
Yeah.
And I hear so much veteran stories I tell so much negative noise. I talked to someone today and he's here and I was telling him about how we show up as our brand. I say, what you put out, the energy you put out is what people are gonna, try to get back in return. Yeah. So I said, I'm very careful to not be authentic, but I'm very careful to be very positive, authentic. Yes. I believe that, there's so much goodness in this world that we can be projecting, and we don't have to always just only focus on the things. I'm all about focusing on the challenges. But if you can't tell me about how we go to action the challenges into solutions, then let's not just keep talking about it.
Yeah, let's not waste our time.
Don't waste our time.
Every challenge and opportunity.
It's our opportunity.
We heard that from one of our favorite generals.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Listeners, you heard it. You heard unfiltered, the truth. You heard so many great nuggets that I know I'm going to take and value. Todd, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
For your time, for joining us at Red Tape Real Talk. We're out.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Awesome.